Hello and welcome to the Hoop Collective Podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we are doing in quasi-emergency fashion Tuesday night. Joining me from, I don't know what it's called now. It used to be called the Nassau Coliseum. What is it called now, Bontemps?
Incorrect. We are not at the same building that was Nassau Coliseum. We are at a new arena called UBS Arena in Elmont, New York, next to Belmont Park, where the WNBA Cup was held tonight. Liberty played the Minnesota Lynx. And late in the third quarter of this game, Joe Tsai, owner of Liberty and the Nets, took a phone call. He walked out of the bowl, came back about 10, 15 minutes later. And then Adrian Wojnarowski had some news a little bit longer after that involving the Nets.
All right, we'll talk about that in a second. Who won the game between the Lynx and the Liberty,
Lynx,
by the way?
Lynx had a big second half comeback and won, upset the Liberty.
So Joe Tsai lost Mikal Bridges and the Commissioner's Cup in the same night?
He did, but I think the Nets are pretty happy about the way the night unfolded, which we'll talk about.
Joining us from Dallas, Texas is Van MacMahon.
Howdy, partners. You know what the Nets did get tonight? They got the benefit from being bad. They got the benefit from being bad back. That's what they did in their, secondary deal. Is ancillary the proper usage there? We'll
go over all in a second. Jackson and I had dinner tonight in New Haven and Connecticut, and now he's producing this podcast. Okay, so as we are at about 11:30 Eastern, the deals that have happened are Mikal Bridges to the New York Knicks from the Nets. Do we know when the last time the Knicks and Nets made a deal was?
So the Brooklyn Nets are now the Brooklyn Nets, the New Jersey Nets / Brooklyn Nets, and New York Knicks have made 4 trades ever before tonight. In 1978, they traded Phil Jackson and a first-round pick for what became 2 first-round picks. Later, it became Michael Ray Richardson and Vinnie Johnson. Pretty interesting trade.
Good trade.
Mike Woodson got traded from the Knicks to the Nets for Mike Newlin in 1981. A third-round pick became Ed Sherrod in 1982. And the Knicks traded in 1984 second-round pick for Len Elmore on June 22nd, 1983. 41 years ago this week.
Yeah.
Were you
That's the last time the Knicks and Nets made a trade. I was not alive the last time the Knicks and Nets made a trade.
Wow.
So
and you guys were both wee lads.
Yeah. 41
I was
years
already posting dudes up by then, but go on.
Anyway, 4 decades later, Mikal Bridges to the Nova Knicks for 5 first-round picks and a pick swap.
And a second-round pick.
They swapped second-round picks, right?
They got it. They got a second-round pick next year. I believe it was the Nets second-round pick, because I think the Knicks had the Nets second-round pick, but I'm not positive.
We're not going to focus on the second.
Doesn't matter. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Human trade exception of Bojan Bogdanovic and a whole bunch of picks.
So 5 first-round picks. 4 of them are the Knicks. One of them is the Bucks 2025 top 4 protected, so lightly protected Bucks pick. The key is 4 first-round picks from the Knicks, and neither of them are the picks that they have in this year's draft.
Mm-hmm.
So long out picks all the way out to 29. And basically, this is the trade that the Knicks have been building towards for 3-ish years. Leon Rose has been there. This is about to be his 5th year, I think, 4th year, 5th year. They've been building towards this trade this whole time. There was a time where I thought that this would be, swinging for a fence like Giannis. Even as recently as a couple of days ago, I thought it might be swinging for the fence of Paul George.
Yeah.
5 first-round picks for a player who fits very, very well. Obviously, there's instantaneous chemistry. Instantaneous chemistry there. Almost probably arguably maybe one of the best chemistry trades you could see in the modern era of the NBA. But it's also 5 first-round picks for a player who's never been an all-star. And probably, would be hard to be sorry, I'm getting bombarded by texts from agents. I don't mean to be rude, but
Very important guy, MacMahon. Very important.
And a guy they're not necessarily coming in and asking to put up all-star kind of production, which he did for a couple months.
Well, his role is different from the trade. So let's just take it one at a time. And then the Nets made a secondary trade with the Rockets, which we'll talk about in a second. Let's first focus on this. My snap reaction is that this is a lot of stuff to give up for an excellent but not superstar level player. And the big thing will be, what do they do with OG Anunoby and Isaiah Hartenstein? Because their ability to keep or lose them following this trade is key to how the Knicks line up. But obviously, Mikal Bridges is a excellent player, an excellent wing defender, plays every game, golden in the locker room, tremendous character, fits all this down the line. But he is, as you said, MacMahon, he's not going to be a 3-and-D player again. He's going to be a high-level role player, but a role player on this. Yeah, a role player on this team. And I don't know, Bontemps, I don't know how I feel about this, about the 5 picks here. And by the way, there were other teams that were trying to trade for Mikal Bridges in this last couple of weeks because of some statements Joe Tsai made about a rebuild. The Nets, I am told, were asking for as many as 6 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. Other teams that they talked to asked for 6. So I guess if framed that way, the Knicks were able to talk him down with just a 5 and a swap.
Yeah, I mean, listen. The Knicks tremendously overpaid to get Mikal Bridges on the team. Now, again, we will see if that results in the Knicks getting where they want to go, because by making this trade, it is quite obvious what the Knicks are doing. They're looking up the Eastern Seaboard to the Boston Celtics, a team that won, as we talked about a lot during the finals and before, with having a ton of versatile defensive players, can play a lot of different ways, size up and down the roster, versatility defensively in particular. And by going out and getting Mikal Bridges, they can bring back OG Anunoby and Isaiah Hartenstein especially. They're 8 deep across the board. They could play every way. They've got guys that, like you said, have instant chemistry together. Like, they have a team that could go toe-to-toe with the Celtics and give them a huge run for their money. But look, the Knicks dramatically overpaid here. They gave up 5 first-round picks for a guy who's never made an all-star team. And we talked about them not trading for Donovan Mitchell and waiting to trade for a star, right? That's what we kept talking about. When are the Knicks going to trade for a star-level player? They decided to trade for a star-level role player. And between OG Anunoby in January and Mikal Bridges now, the Knicks have given up a ton of stuff for 2 elite role players. Now, that might be the formula that gets them over the line, but it's a very fascinating bet by them to get 2 of the best wing 3-and-D guys in the league and use their draft capital on that. And as for the Nets, I mean, look, this goes back to what MacMahon said before. You can't just talk about this trade and not talk about the Rockets Suns trade or Nets trade, because with these 2 moves, which were
we're talking about the Knicks, right? We'll talk about the Knicks. We're talking about the Knicks now, then we'll talk about the Nets.
Okay, so all right. Well, if we're just not going to talk about the Nets at all now, then
that's right. We're not going to talk about the Nets. I just said we're going to talk about the Nets.
I said
we'll talk about the Nets after the Knicks.
Let's focus on the Knicks.
You need to settle down. I heard you.
Knicks
I said
first.
Now. I didn't say it all.
Knicks
okay.
First,
I know we had some internet trouble. We're all here.
You talk about the Knicks, then MacMahon talks about the Knicks, and then we'll talk about the Nets.
I want to talk about the Knicks.
Okay.
I want to talk about the Knicks.
Go for it.
Me.
Go for it.
My turn. My turn. Which that might be the way it would have gone in the backcourt if they'd have done the trade for Donovan Mitchell with Jim. But seriously though, this is a huge swing at fit and chemistry and defensive depth. Now you can't do this and let Anunoby go. You're gonna have to pay Anunoby. We'll see if there's other pieces in here to prevent the Knicks from being hard capped. If they are hard capped, I have a difficult time seeing the math that makes Anunoby and Hartenstein possible. I think you're looking at losing a big man in that case. But if you're just looking at, hey, you're going to have to beat Boston to get out of the East. Well, you better start with how do we guard Tatum and Brown? And if your answers are, well, Anunoby and Bridges, and then you have Josh Hart to take some turns as well, and that's a pretty good place to start. The other thing, when you make these massive multi-pick deals, as Brooklyn found out the hard way, as Phoenix might end up finding out the hard way, a big part of the risk is, boy, you better put together a team that's going to stay together. If the team blows up, then it's a real painful deal down the road. And the Nets just dug out of that part of the pain with the side deal that they did. But my point is, when you have this kind of chemistry, when you have now 4 guys who won a college championship together, they're like, this thing is played out on social media and Brunson and Hart's podcast of them basically, making fun of Bridges for being in, the JV section of New York City. I don't think there's any real fear of this not being a long-term fit. So if you're the Knicks, you're saying, man, it's a lot of picks, but we think those picks are all going to be, in the 20s, those kind of picks.
Yeah. Okay.
Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I do admit, if you're trying to beat Boston, having OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges as your lead wing defenders is a good place to start. And Bridges is a lot younger and a lot more reliable than Paul George, which we know was an option here. I'm not so sure Paul George really wanted to leave the West Coast. I think that was something that Philadelphia kind of ran into when they kicked the tires there. But if they had traded 5 first-round picks for Paul George, I would have been a little squeamish, to be honest with you. And Paul George is an all-NBA player.
Right, but this is a guy who literally never misses a game, where Paul George is higher upside, much less reliability, and the age doesn't line up, where Bridges is not nearly as high of upside, but the man plays every game. The age lines up.
Yeah, so the Knicks haven't gassed all of their resources, but they've pretty much gassed the bulk of what they have. This is now what they're casting their lot as. I know.
This was their star move. This is their team for sure.
I know Woj's reporting indicates that they want to keep Anunoby, but he's not sure they're going to be able to keep Hartenstein. They can keep them both as long as this trade is structured correctly by the Knicks and they make smart trades. It's not a surprising structure, at least, of trades. As long as this trade is structured.
Do you want to explain that quick? Because it's fairly simple.
Why don't you explain it?
Just real quickly, with the way the new rules are set up, if you take in more money than you send out in a trade, you're hard capped at the first salary cap paper. It's like $179 million, right? So if it's just Bojan Bogdanovic for Mikal Bridges, Bridges makes more than Bojan, and therefore the Knicks would be hard capped, and they have about $50 million to re-sign OG and Isaiah Hartenstein and fill out their roster. If they guarantee a couple minimum contracts with Bojan and send them all to Brooklyn, they'd get an extra 11 million or so, and they'd have about $60 million to fill out their roster because it'd be hard capped at the second apron. And that, I think, would be, to McMahon's point, a much easier fit to get both of those guys done and fill out your roster and not have to sacrifice any players off your team. Otherwise, you're either not re-signing Isaiah Hartenstein, you're trading Mitchell Robinson, you're doing something else that's making your team worse in that scenario.
Yeah, so these are all the new rules that are just kind of coming online that everybody's grappling with. For example, the Oklahoma City Thunder are actually hard capped now at the first apron because the trade that they made, Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso, they took back more money than they sent out, and so they're hard capped. Not an issue for them. They're still $30 million under the regular cap, but that is now a thing that happens when you look at lining up multiple trades. Okay, so this for the Nets. The thing that was the impediment for the Nets on a rebuild is they didn't control their draft. So they did 2 things tonight. One, they kicked off a massive rebuild. Obviously, after the Kyrie, Harden, and Durant trades, they were in a rebuild, but they were trying to rebuild on the fly. That was their goal. About a month ago, Joe Tsai was at a conference. He was on a dais. He got asked about the Nets. He basically indicated he didn't want to be in the middle anymore, and the league's ears perked up. Phone started ringing for Mikal Bridges, Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, others, and their prices were sky high, so sky high that in fact, I know of at least one team where they were trying to acquire Mikal Bridges because they thought it might help them acquire another free agent. It was like, let's do a package deal here. And they were told in an outrageous level of assets required for Mikal Bridges. So teams were like, okay, they want to rebuild, but they don't really want to rebuild. They're just kind of pretending that they do. Well, here comes the move, and the move happened in conjunction with another move. So off goes Mikal Bridges, indicating to the rest of the league that more trades are coming. The first trade they make is with the Houston Rockets, according to Woj, and they basically acquire back the control of their next two drafts. The 25 draft, which is expected to be very deep, and the 26 draft, which is also looking good. They got them back from the Houston Rockets using Phoenix Suns draft assets. Two Phoenix Suns control of two picks, potentially even three, for all the way out to as far as 2029. So now Houston traded control of Brooklyn's draft to significant control of Phoenix's draft, and a straight draft pick for draft pick swap. We almost never see trades like this other than like on draft night where you're actually trading players for players. You're not really trading pick for pick. And MacMahon, you're the Texas man. What is Houston doing?
Well, Houston is doing a couple things. Number one, they are, this is a quantity play, right? They gave up a 2025 swap and a 2026 pick back to Brooklyn. And they got the Suns unprotected 27 and 29, and then swap rights for 25 and 29. This 29 swap right includes the Mavs pick. So that's owed to Brooklyn from the Kyrie deal. So they'll get the best two of the three in 29. Again, 25 swap rights with the Suns, and then the Suns 27 and 29 picks. So two and two for 1 and 1. It's a quantity play. It's also, bumping back their assets a little bit. And this is something that the Rockets actually went to the Nets and asked if they were interested in before the trade deadline. And, frankly, you know what else they're doing? They're shorting a Kevin Durant team before they think it's going to blow up again. They've worked in Brooklyn, and I don't know.
What if they're the team that blows them up?
Well, and that's a possibility. I would say that the Rockets are trying to build a long-term sustainable contender. And so if the Suns are going to blow up, I would look towards Devin Booker before I would look towards Kevin Durant. Now, the Suns, Matt Ishbia is, why would they blow up the Suns? I mean, 26, 29 GMs would, do backflips to trade places with them. So the Suns aren't ready to do any of that right now. And it's not like the Rockets are just going to wait and not explore any other options and just see what happens with the Suns. But should it get to a point where the Suns are blowing up and the Rockets haven't used this stockpile of picks that they just increased to do something else, then they would be awfully attractive in talks with Phoenix. Now, also, I want to point out, while Brooklyn gave themselves the benefit of being bad for the next 2 years, the Rockets do still have 27 swap rights with the Nets. But, the Rockets, again, now they're shorting the Suns more so than the Nets. They doubled the amount of assets in this deal. And, again, this is about this is a bet against Phoenix's pretty short-term future, short and intermediate term future.
Well, I mean, it sort of is, right? What it is, I think, really, is for both sides. I mean, it is obviously partially that, right, MacMahon? But I think what it really is here is when you look at the Nets from the net side of this, it's the ability for them to, as you said earlier, perfectly control and benefit from being bad the next 2 years is worth so much to the Nets that it's worth double the price in the future as bets for the Rockets, right? Because the Nets are going to suck the next 2 years. Dorian Finney-Smith, I'll be stunned if he's on the team. Cam Johnson, I'll be stunned if he's on the team. Let's see if Nick Claxton's on the team.
I mean,
Maybe
even if they are on the team,
somewhere.
they're not winning. Those guys are role players. They're not winning.
But I don't think they're going to be on the team.
They are planting their flag in the Cooper Flag sweepstakes.
Yes, by making the Mikal Bridges trade, and this is what I was going to say before, by making the Mikal Bridges trade and making this trade virtually simultaneously, that obviously made them together in a sense. Yeah. The Nets have clearly stated, as MacMahon just pointed out, whether it's Cooper Flag or the other guys that are atop what's a loaded 25 draft, the Nets are going to be right there. And by getting that 26 pick, and especially because they didn't worry about the other picks involved here, they didn't get the third pick in this year's draft, which was their pick originally. They didn't get the future picks. This was about controlling their next 2 years. And all the guys, whether it's, and we'll see what they do with Cam Thomas. I think you go up and down the roster. Any guy on this Nets roster that they can get value for, I think it's going to be open season. And who wants to trade for them and what can they get? Because they just stated what their goal clearly is to be awful. And for them, that's worth giving up that future price because they could potentially get 2 top 3 or top 5 picks in the next 2 drafts. And then for Houston, this gives them a ton of optionality going forward.
Yeah, they don't have to make a deal with Phoenix. They can make a lot. With every Phoenix loss, with every Phoenix loss, these picks get more valuable, not just because of what happened with Phoenix. But look, let's point something out.
Directions for it.
Let's point something out. I'm not sure. I'm just going to state a couple of facts here. If you think they're not facts, you can correct me. One, Houston wants to get better immediately. They're not looking for holding draft picks. They're looking to get better now. Fact?
I would say want to, yes. Desperate to, no.
Okay, fair. Kevin Durant has a relationship with Ime Udoka, the Rockets head coach, and one of the closest people he is to in the league is Royal Ivey.
Yes,
Rockets assistant coach.
Those are facts.
Wonder what Kevin Durant feels about this development.
Well, and look, I think Bridges wanting to go to New York ended up maybe blowing a little wind on the domino there. Matt Ishbia can be determined to see how this contender.
Another podcast leading to another podcast leading to transactions. First was LeBron and JJ. Now it's the what do they call that podcast? The Villanova boys.
Well, I am a little pissed. Listen, we've been podcasting a lot longer than JJ Redick, and none of us have even gotten an interview for a head coaching job. I can't even be, dude. I'm not even the head coach of our freaking 5th grade rec team. I got to be a freaking assistant there. It's bull.
Rightfully so.
I mean, he was the head coach of his team. That's the problem. He should have been the head coach, and he'd be getting interviews. That's the difference.
He has a little bit more control over his schedule.
The roommates show, by the way, with Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart. They're going to need a bigger boat.
The Nets obviously hung a shingle up and said, we would like to move Mikal Bridges. Bring your best offers. And look, the Knicks brought the best offer. This is an insane offer for Mikal Bridges.
But how did KD end up in Phoenix in the first place?
Well, because the guy bought the team 24 hours before the trade deadline.
Well, Andy said, get me to Phoenix.
Well, but really what happened was the guy literally bought the team 24 hours before the trade deadline. It said, damn the Torpedoes. And it was the fastest turnaround in the history of the league.
And did a cannonball. He did a cannonball into the trade pool.
Yes.
But damn the Torpedoes. He said, damn the Torpedoes. And then he said, damn the nuclear bombs when they did the Bradley Beal trade.
Well, but again, these things are all about timing and circumstance, right? And you look at what the Boston Celtics did over time. They kept continually adding one piece after another. And the Knicks did that for a long time. They went partially pretty heavily in with the OG trade. And then they went all the way in with the Bridges. Now, look, you can make that face, but they traded Emmanuel quickly. They traded a first round pick capital. They traded RJ Barrett. They traded a lot.
They didn't
OG
trade a
Anunoby.
first round pick. They traded no first round picks.
Yeah,
But they traded a second in that trade.
What?
They traded their former
traded-
number
they-
3
what they-
overall pick and their 6th man. I mean, it was a pretty aggressive move.
And well, at least they traded the 31st pick in the draft. The point is, that was an aggressive move to get OG Anunoby. Obviously, this is a vastly more aggressive move.
They're not in the same ballpark.
Oh,
That's
well,
fair.
okay. The point is, for a long time, the Knicks were very patient and didn't do a lot. And now, in the last 6 months, they've gone all in on 2 elite role players. It's a fascinating shift in strategy.
Yeah.
And now they're all in on this team. They're not, I mean, they could maybe package some of these guys to trade for somebody else, but like they pretty much have said, we don't have any draft picks now. This is our team. We went all in for the Nova Knicks. Like this is who they're going to be going to war with for the next couple of years. It's just a
the Knicks
crazy
are all
move.
in. Knicks are all in. The Nets are starting over. And then the Rockets are in phase 2 with a whole bunch of ammo.
Phase 2. They're trying. Phase 3 is on the launching pad.
That's what I
They're
said.
ready to go. Big
They've
guy.
got a whole lot of ammo. They're trying to get into phase 3.
So what? Let's say that the Knicks re-sign OG Anunoby. Let's just. I would be stunned if they're. Well, Philadelphia now I think is their main competition for OG, because Philadelphia I think they've moved past the idea of getting Paul George. I don't think it's dead.
I feel
but
confident OG is going to be back with the Knicks too.
Okay. I do think that Philly could offer a max and cause some problems there, but let's just believe that OG's back. What is their starting lineup?
Does Josh Hart come off the bench?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Their starting lineup will be Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, and then either Mitchell Robinson or Isaiah Hartenstein. And then their second unit is Deuce McBride, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, and the other center. That's an awesome 9-man team. Like that. That's a super deep team. They can guard everybody. They've got a lot of shooting. They're big. That's an incredible team.
Well, depending on what happens,
deep, incredibly versatile.
The second center might be Precious Achiuwa, depending on how things play out. You know, they'll have 2 bigs.
I feel pretty confident it won't be Precious. I mean, it could be somebody like Andre Drummond, some minimum big off the market, depending on if they have to trade. Either they can't re-sign Isaiah Hartenstein, they can't trade. They have to trade Mitchell Robinson. We'll see what happens there. The bottom line is on the wings, those 7 guys on the wings or 6 guys on the wings. You don't want to count Julius. Like that is built to go toe to toe with the Celtics. That's what it is. They've got long, athletic, versatile guys all over. They've got Jalen to score. Like they've got a lot of shooting there. That's a team that's built to try to take down the James.
Leon Rose won't answer questions about this, so I guess we'll have to just suppose what he may be thinking. But I suppose what he's thinking here is he's not just trading for Mikal Bridges. He's also trading for the best out of Brunson, Hart, and DiVincenzo.
Yeah.
He's trading to solidify their investment and to get
the man said it's a bet on chemistry. It's the ultimate bet on chemistry. It's like we're betting on the Nova Knicks. Like we're going to have these guys come together and be better than the sum of the parts.
Yeah, it's a bet on a core that they'll be able to keep together for probably not until this trade is paid off, just because I don't know, when's the last pick? Maybe like 2031 or something?
31.
Yeah. So I don't know if it'll be that
these guys
long,
are going to be here for a while.
It'll be for a while.
Well, here's the other thing. Here's the other thing too. Jalen Brunson can sign an extension this summer. He can sign an extension for way less than his max. Is he going to do it? Like, he might. I don't know. But like, maybe these guys all are also aligned from that standpoint. Maybe Mikal Bridges extends this summer off of his contract, which is obviously has been seen as a bargain deal. Maybe he takes an extension for less than he could have had potentially on the open market to play with his friends for the next several years. Dante DiVincenzo on a great contract the next 3 years. Josh Hart is on a good contract the next few years. Like, this is the other thing the Knicks have done. They have stacked up good contract and put themselves in. They immediately extend Deuce McBride after the Emmanuel Quickly trade. That's instantly become one of the best contracts in the league. They have done a phenomenal job of managing their books. And now by adding Mikal Bridges, they can have all of this stuff together and not have to really sacrifice off their team to add an impact player, which is why they're sending out so many picks, because they're not sending out any of the core guys on their team to get the deal back.
All right. One thing before we go. Is this the last trade that we see in this 24-hour period of teams returning their picks?
You talking about before the draft, or because obviously once the
well,
during the draft,
you know. So Atlanta's number one, and San Antonio.
I'm not sure it's the last trade we see involving the Houston Rockets, or for that matter,
I agree. I'm talking about returning their picks. Returning their picks.
What do you have?
We see. I'm saying, the Hawks have the first pick. San Antonio has 4 and 8, and San Antonio's got the Hawks draft capital.
Yeah, there's that.
I don't think that. I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong. I don't think that is happening in the next 24 hours. I would bet against that, but maybe we'll see.
I mean, I think the two sides are talking or have talked. So I'm just saying, we'll see
about there.
The league, it's a copycat league, right? It's a copycat league. We'll see what happens when number one goes on the clock.
Is.
Okay. For the start of wild transaction season, there's going to be more emergency pods in the coming days. I wonder if there'll be much talk of anything. I wonder if there's a talk of anything about the actual draft tomorrow.
Oh, listen, there'll be, again, there's no stars in the draft. There will be stars in this draft, and there will be plenty of discussion in this draft. But yeah, I think the main talk that we're going to have is there's going to be a whole bunch of trades made and a whole bunch of guys flying around the league.
All right. Well, MacMahon, thank you for being available. Bontemps, thank you for being available. Jackson got to keep the leftover pizza. He's going to need it while he's putting this together overnight.
Jackson's the big winner.
We will talk to you whenever we talk to you next. By the way, the Hoop Collective draft show will be on YouTube and ESPN Plus tomorrow.
Actually, I'm just hanging out at the house, and I was going to have a first round pick.
I was going to say, big man.
No fajitas for me.
Bontemps will be at the Barclays Center.
I'll be at the Barclays Center.
I'm making
the Nets have shipped off by then.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Jackson. Thank you, MacMahon and Bontemps. We'll talk to you soon.
Adios, amigos.